As we now approach the halfway mark of the 2024 college football season, we are in a spot where there aren't many undefeated teams left. In fact, just 12 schools out of nearly 130 can still call themselves undefeated this season. This came after a crazy past weekend in which we saw 6 of the top 11 teams go down, and a lot of undefeateds got a blemish to their record. In today's video though, we're going to continue our series where we rank each and every undefeated team, and this will probably be the last week of doing this. I think next week I'll start including one-loss teams and undefeated teams to make the video series continue, but for now, this could be the last of its kind for the 2024 college football season. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and rank all 12 undefeated teams left for the 2024 college football season. Okay, so at number 12, we have the Liberty Flames. It feels like the Flames have not played in a month, as they had a bye week this past week, and before that, their game against Appalachian State was canceled. Before that, Liberty beat East Carolina 35-24, UTEP 28-10, New Mexico State 30-24, and Campbell 41-24. None of those wins really mean anything to me, and right now Liberty is just sort of a fluke team. They have one of the easiest schedules we've ever seen. They pretty much have nothing challenging on their remaining schedule except the game against Sam Houston State, and for now the Flames are taking a very easy path to potentially getting that 12 seed. If they finish at 12-0, it's going to be hard to keep them out of the college football playoff, but the Flames honestly I don't think are that good. Jamie Chadwell and Caden Salter are big names, but my goodness, Liberty needs to finally play someone at some point. Ranked in front of the Flames is the Army Black Knights. It is really cool how Army is still 5-0, but just like Liberty, their schedule hasn't exactly been daunting. To say they've played schools like Texas, Ohio State, or Ole Miss or something in the first few weeks would be a lie, as they would beat Lehigh 42-7 in week 1, go on the road and beat Florida Atlantic 24-7 in week 2, and then beat Rice at home in week 3 37-14. Their last 2 weeks has got a little bit more challenging as they had to play 2 road games, beating Temple 42-14, which used to be a respectable win, and then beating Tulsa 49-7. Neither of these 2 games are that great for resume boosters, but they're still 5-0, and they have a couple of difficult games remaining on the schedule, including a game against number 11 Notre Dame, and a game against their arch-rival Navy, who's also still 5-0, and next on the list. Who would have thought that Navy would have this kind of season, as last year they didn't really do all that well, and looked terrible. The Midshipmen would beat Bucknell 49-21 in week 1, before also beating Temple in week 2 38-11. The main win on Navy's resume came in week 3, as Memphis was seen as one of the top, if not the top group of 5 schools, and they beat Memphis 56-44, and it's weird to think that Navy was putting up 56 points in a game. But their new offensive identity has changed things, as they then put up 41 points in a road victory over UAB, then this past weekend went on the road and defeated Air Force 34-7. Troy Calhoun's Air Force program is typically very difficult to beat, but Navy made them look terrible. So far the Midshipmen are 5-0, and they have a little bit more difficult of a schedule than Army, as they also play number 11 Notre Dame, and still have to go on the road to play South Florida, and they get Tulane at home, followed by that huge Army-Navy game. I did a video last week on the rise of Army and Navy, so you guys should check that out, as I'll leave a link down in the comment section below, and it really is cool to see these 2 teams undefeated, and that Army-Navy game in December could be the most hyped up game we've seen in a long time. At number 9, we have the Indiana Hoosiers. Under first-year head coach Curt Cignetti, Indiana has become the first team to be bowl eligible, as they are currently 6-0. Led by star quarterback Curtis Rourke and a plethora of options at receiver and running back, the Hoosiers beat Florida International 31-7 in week 1, and then killed Western Illinois 77-3 in week 2. In week 3, they got their biggest win in a long time, as they went on the road and beat UCLA 42-13. Yes, the Bruins are terrible, but the fact that Indiana went on the road and dominated another Big Ten team is something that never happens in Indiana. After that, they came home and beat Charlotte 52-14, before getting another impressive victory against Maryland. The game was impressive because they had 4 turnovers and still managed to win 42-28, despite the Terps never turning it over once. This past weekend, they went on the road to play against Northwestern and won that game 41-24, and it was never really in doubt. The Hoosiers have 3 wins over Power 4 teams, and they also blew out the other 3 terrible opponents they played. They're 6-0, and things are looking really good in Bloomington, and they'll have a bye week before they face off with Nebraska. I made a video on the rise of the Hoosiers, so be sure to check that one out as well. Coming in right after Indiana is Miami. While some would argue that Miami should be higher on the list, the way that they've beaten teams the last couple of weeks has me moved them down. In week 1, they beat Florida 41-17, and Billy Napier was not happy about that. And in week 2, they killed Florida A&M 56-9, and then blanked Ball State 62-0. From there, they also beat USF 50-15, but here's where things start to get interesting. Against Virginia Tech, the Hokies scored a Hail Mary on the field, but after review, they ended up calling it back, and while it should not have been called a Hail Mary on the field, I don't know if there was enough evidence to overturn it. Some say that the Hokies got screwed, and that the ACC put out to help Miami. This past weekend, you could say the same thing, as there were a couple missed penalties, and they ended up having one of the biggest comebacks in school history, beating Cal 39-38 at what felt like 2 a.m. Miami is currently 6-0, and they are on the march to the college football playoff, but their last 2 weeks they've looked a little bit fraudulent. Maybe Louisville will beat them this upcoming week, but Miami needs to start winning games more handily and not relying on controversial calls to win. In front of Miami, I have the Iowa State Cyclones. They've been one of the surprises of the 2024 college football season, as many were ready to write off Matt Campbell and what he was doing with his program. Iowa State is back, and they beat North Dakota State 21-3 in Week 1 before an awesome win on the road against number 21 Iowa in the Cy-Hawk Trophy game. They beat them 20-19, and then these past 3 weeks they've gotten better. They destroyed Arkansas State 52-7, killed a terrible Houston team 20-0, and then this past weekend beat Baylor in these crazy white uniforms 43-21. Iowa State is looking a little bit better each week. Rocco Beck is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country, and Iowa State could be the best team in the Big 12 here soon. In front of Iowa State is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They are finally going up the list, as over the last 2 weeks many Buckeye fans have complained, and they finally have 2 wins over Power 4 teams. After dismantling Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall in weeks 1 through 3, they have since beat Sparty 38-7, and most recently Iowa 35-7. The Hawkeyes game was close until halftime, but Ohio State's dominant offense went nuts. Emeka Egbuka had 3 touchdowns, and Will Howard looks great. Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country and should be a playoff team, but still their resume isn't all that great. Luckily, things change right away as they play Oregon, Nebraska, and Penn State in the next 4 weeks, and that should be a lot of fun to watch. We'll find out if Ohio State is national championship good or just playoff good here soon. In front of the Buckeyes for now are the Penn State Nittany Lions. Andy Kotelnicki has turned around Penn State's offense in 1 year, and Drew Allar looks really good. The Nittany Lions are number 4 in the nation right now, as they beat West Virginia 34-12 in Week 1, survived against Bowling Green 34-27 in Week 2, and then blanked a pathetic Kent State team 56-0 in Week 3. These past 2 weeks have been solid for them, as they knocked off a top 25 Illinois team 21-7 at Beaver Stadium, and this past weekend beat UCLA 27-11. Penn State isn't exactly dominating, but they also have 3 wins against Power 4 teams. The offense looks much improved from last year, and now the schedule gets more difficult. They play USC, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Washington in the next 4 weeks, and all 4 of those teams are not all that easy to beat. We'll have to wait and see how Penn State does, but they should be a playoff team this year. Ranked in front of the Nittany Lions are the Pitt Panthers. They come in at number 6, and they are currently ranked number 22 in the country. No one thought that Pitt would be this good this year, as so far they've beaten Kent State and Youngstown State for their tune-up games, and besides that, they have 3 solid wins. They went and beat Cincinnati 28-27 after a miracle 4th quarter comeback, and did the same thing against West Virginia, winning 38-34 in that one. This past weekend, they traveled to North Carolina, a team I don't think they've ever beaten in the ACC, and won that game 34-24. Eli Holstein is one of the best stories at quarterback this season. Desmond Reed is a superstar, and I'm really excited to see how Pitt could do. They could be the darlings of the ACC, and in the next couple weeks, we'll find out as they play Cal, SMU, Syracuse, Clemson, and Louisville. Finally, we get into the last 3 teams. At number 3, we have the BYU Cougars. They've also been a darling surprise of the 2024 college football season, as under quarterback Jake Retzlaff, the Cougars have been pretty good. They beat Southern Illinois 41-13 in Week 1, before getting an underrated win on the road against SMU in Week 2, 18-15. In Week 3, they went on the road and beat Wyoming, before coming home and beating a really good Kansas State team 38-9. They then beat Baylor on the road 34-28, and so far they have 2 wins over top 25 teams and a road victory over Baylor, and things are looking really good in Provo right now. BYU and Iowa State are the 2 undefeated teams left in the Big 12, and one of those 2 teams will probably end up in the college football playoff. And number 2, we have the Oregon Ducks. They have been steadily climbing this list, and right now they have 4 solid wins. They beat Idaho 24-14 in Week 1, and honestly they looked terrible in that game, but since then they have flipped a switch. They beat a Boise State team 37-34, who's led by Heisman frontrunner Ashton Genty and currently ranked in the top 25. Then went on the road and beat Oregon State in the Civil War game 49-14. Then went on the road and beat UCLA 34-13. Then this past weekend they beat Michigan State 31-10. They have 4 victories over quality opponents, and Oregon will now have to find a way to beat Ohio State this upcoming Saturday in Columbus. That is the game of the week, and while I don't think Oregon is necessarily going to win, the Ducks have been really solid this year under Dan Lanning and should be headed to the playoff. Number 1, we have the Texas Longhorns. They were on bye this past weekend, but the Longhorns are currently 5-0 as they destroyed Colorado State 52-0 in Week 1, then went on the road and got a really quality win against number 10 Michigan in Week 2. Since then, they've beat UTSA 56-7, beat UL Monroe 51-3, who's also actually decent this year, and then beat Mississippi State 35-13. While the Michigan win isn't as good as it originally looks, Texas still right now is at number 1, and we'll find out how they're going to do this upcoming Saturday as they play number 18 Oklahoma, and then have to travel to Georgia, and then go on the road to Vanderbilt. I doubt the Commodores will beat them, but at the same time, everyone said they couldn't beat Bama. So yeah, today we rank the top 12 teams in college football and all the ones that are undefeated remaining. So let me know what you think. What did I get right and wrong? And what video series should I do next? Also be sure to let me know down below your thoughts, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.